Racing World is presented by Race Control Magazine. And a warm welcome to you all and welcome back into our Racing World, our being David Turner, Bob McMurray and myself, Darcy Waldegrave, and to all the viewers out there on YouTube. We're really moving up in the world, aren't we? Hi guys and girls, thanks very much for joining us, and we can tell because David Turner has matched his headphones with his branded polo top, and I do wonder with the size of your budget, where's mine?
Oh, well, next week, you never know. I can do them in black, blue and white, so, you know.
Okay, that's good.
And
wow.
they can be bought from the front store.
Do I get a matching hat? Because I see that Bob's matched up with his Toyota gear very well.
Yeah, but yes, and why not?
Yeah, and all I've got
Toyota's
is a
a proud
baggy old
supporter.
T-shirt that I managed to flog from the concession stands at the last running of the Melbourne Grand Prix before things got a bit COVID-y.
We've got to do something because we've got to pay all these makeup ladies standing outside here doing all the makeup.
They
Clearly
make us look
successful.
pretty, don't they?
Well, the good thing about it is that the podcast is growing now. This is our 7th show. But, you know, it was a chance to try and give it to YouTube viewers as well, so they actually get to see the faces behind the voices and expand our horizon a little bit. So anyone who's maybe watching it on YouTube and you haven't heard the podcasts, they're all there via Anchor. Go back and have a listen to them. And then also, welcome to the show.
And I do have a mullet called Carl, but I've tucked my mullet under my cap because I think it's too early doors yet for you to see the monstrosity that lurks beneath this cap. Maybe in upcoming editions we will see. Great to have you guys back on board again.
One that I'm not in, preferably. Scares the life out of me, your mullet. Anyway.
Lots to talk about. Lots of racing going on around the planet. Some very interesting races and some odd occurrences as we move forward. I suppose we'll kick things off with a bit of IndyCar. David Turner, your area of expertise, your realm. What's actually happening? Are we going to Mid-Ohio or are we not? Officially, what's the call and why?
Officially,
yes,
the IndyCar website says there's no Mid-Ohio at all. Officially, IndyCar haven't actually issued a press release about Mid-Ohio at all. Racer Magazine, Marshall Pruitt, who I respect as a writer and a good friend of mine, issued a article 3 days ago now saying Mid-Ohio was off and potentially going to be rescheduled in October. Marshall has good sources, so I value that. So maybe we are going back there in October. Website doesn't reflect that. IndyCar media, no comment from them at all. So who knows? Big thing now is there's potentially only 5 or 6 races left in the championship, assuming they all happen. Last one being St. Pete in Florida. Honestly, I can't see it happening. It's a street race, so there'll be a point where they have to commit one way or the other because they've got to build the thing. In which case, you know, that won't happen. And then we've got 2 races on the Indy Grand Prix circuit, 2 races at St. Louis on the small oval there, and then the running of the Indy 500. My bitch, if you like, is the fact that I now don't believe double points should apply to the Indy 500. They won't change it now, but again, it highlights what we've seen in Supercar. We've seen it in IndyCar before. I'm not a fan of double points races. Why have them? A race is a race, just same number of points all year long. Thank you very much, regardless of the stature of the race.
And the fewer races that you have, the more likely it is if you have double points, it's going to be an outlier and it's going to have an undue sway on the results of the championship per se.
And as you say to me every week, you know, I'm not being negative or concerned about the Dixon thing, even though he's one of our own, but let's use another driver like Pagenaud or Joseph Newgarden, the current champ. If they DNF at Indy, the chances of recovery, because you've lost all that double points margin, it's really hard. You can't get back into the championship. Now, IndyCar has been renowned over the last few years, at least the last 10, where the championship's gone to the wire. For the first time ever, we may sort of make that not happen, which would be a shame for the sport. But we'll see.
I think, to be honest, I think in many ways the championship is almost irrelevant now. Yes, there is going to be a championship. There'll be a championship winner. And I'm not saying he won't be deserving, but I think we should look at IndyCar races much the same as many other events around the world. They're standalone events. This is the race at wherever it is, and it's that weekend's race.
When you base it on because we don't know what's going to happen next.
Well, yeah, you
just don't know.
You don't know if it's going to be another 3 races in the season, 1 race, 5 races. So a championship is built up over a year. Championship, people drive for a championship. You end up driving for points because of your championship. Now, although that will still happen, I think you just got to look at it as a standalone race wherever they are. And it's the same in supercars because they don't know if they're going to, have races next weekend. Well, next weekend they are, but they don't know if there's going to be races in 2, 3, 4 weeks. Formula One hasn't even got its calendar sorted yet. They don't really know. I think it's just so fluid. Every single championship as such, you might as well just treat everyone as spectators, as people who enjoy the racing, as a standalone event wherever you go. Simple as that.
I will counter it though and say credit where credit's due. Ganassi team, very well done so far this season. They arrived at Texas, rolled that car out of the transporter. She was good to go. So from day one, they've nailed this season. I guess you're saying then, is Dixon a worthy champion? Should he become a champion in 2020? Yes, he is, because they've done the job right. They spent the off-season working on the car. I remember talking to Blair Julian, Scott's crew chief, before St. Pete when it was about to happen, and I said, how are you guys looking? And he said, we think that we're in good shape. We've done a lot of off-season work. We've still seen that translate. So if anyone then got negative, and the same applies to Supercar and Formula One and any other championship, they only did so many races. No. These guys have done the races they've done, and they've won them well, and they've won them in a dominant fashion. So
everybody's in the same boat, though. Yes. This is it. Yes. Everyone. It's not like someone gets a head start on COVID.
No. So we'll see. And, the big impact too with Mid-Ohio, the Road to Indy Series ran there last week. They were going to double bill. They were going to be back again this weekend. So it's kind of stalled that championship a little bit. And for, New Zealander Hunter McElroy, he had a podium finish in the weekend, which was a start of a bit of a championship recovery from him. But that's now stalled that as well. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But, the big thing is the next thing around the block now will be the 104th running of the Indy 500 at the end of the month. Field of 33, yes, I think there will be. Alonso's definitely going to be there. Zach Brown's come out and said that they're good to go. Smaller teams are back in, like Junkers Racing, Dragon Speed. The race itself will still be a great race, just no crowd, or very limited crowd, 25% crowd.
They got 33 drivers, and there might be a person in the crowd for each one of them, because they've already decreased the number of crowd they're allowed in there or allowing in there. And that situation, once again, around that area of the country is fluid completely. If there's another major outbreak there,
it'll change.
Why would you allow 100,000 people to all sit together? Although in America, they seem to not be concerned too much about that anyway. So I don't know.
We spoke of crowds last week. We've spoken of it right the way through Racing World podcast. It doesn't overly concern me. The start maybe, but then the racing itself, I'm not really looking at it. But with Indy, because the crowd is so big, and it's so dominant, and it's a thing of awe. Let's face it. When you know that there's 300 to 400, we don't know how many people are there. You sit there looking around going, this is incredible. So for me, that will stand out a lot more than other races, although same with Silverstone with yourself.
Well, I think so. No, I think, as I said last time, Silverstone would be the one that defines whether you notice the crowd or not. Silverstone, like Indy, the cars are followed by the camera around a bowl of people, around Woodcote and that sort of thing. And that's what you'll see at the Indy 500. So I think when the Indy 500 comes, you will notice the lack of crowd more than any other race. As Silverstone last weekend and this weekend coming, you notice the lack of crowd more than any other race. So, we'll see how many they get in there. It'll be a great race anyway. It's called a great race, and it'll be a bloody good race because it always is. Simple.
IMS is such a big facility that when you see it at only 25% capacity, it will look like there's no one there. But that's because it's such a big place. It is a very, very big venue. Don't forget, there's half a golf course inside the track. So it's big. Big thing though, when it comes to the racing, it's still a race over 500 miles, 8 or 9 pit stops plus cautions. If you're the driver, you're just there to do your job. That's what you're paid to do. But I think drivers at Indy, we've seen it with Lewis Hamilton, he's mentioned it, they do get an adrenaline rush off the feedback from the crowd. But, that's the way it is right now. I'd far rather have it with empty grandstands than what we've seen in some other sports and cardboard figures of people sitting in seats, because that just looks stupid.
Wouldn't you feel for the winner, though?
Yes.
Finally gets to win, gets to drink the milk, holds up Borg Warner, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You'd feel ripped off. Although I'm saying that in their dotage, they wouldn't look back and go, well, I won in front of nobody. They go, I'm an IndyCar. I won Indy 500, regardless of who was there.
It'll be a race they remember.
Oh, yeah.
That was the one. There was nobody there.
Oh, you won that one in 20 asterisk, which is what we should call it.
You are going to go down in history, regardless.
Now, speaking about races that you remember, what about Silverstone?
It was
The last 5 laps made up for everything.
No, it started way before that with poor Hulkenberg or Perez getting the COVID, asymptomatic of the COVID disease, because he went back to Mexico and came back with it, presumably. Him and his manager and his physio went back to see his sick mother, came back, was tested positive. So there's Nico Hulkenberg reclining on his sofa in Monaco, and in the blink of an eye, he's in Silverstone. In the blink of another eye, he's in the simulator at the Racing Point thing and getting seat fittings. In another blink of an eye, he's running around in practice. And another blink of an eye, he's not even taking part in the race because there's, you got $1 million car plus $1 million plus $1 million car, and it's stopped by a broken clutch bolt. You know, the sort of thing that used to happen in your Morris 1000. A clutch bolt used to break or something.
What?
Yeah,
Is there a race series or a category that goes by without at least once in the year somebody being destroyed by a $5 part?
No,
that's
right.
motorsport for
you're
you,
right.
isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Don't say luck to him.
No,
don't use
it
that
wasn't
word.
luck.
No
The
luck.
bolt
No,
broke because it broke. It wasn't luck at all. No, you got to feel sorry for Hulkenberg. But that was really that was just another thing that went on over the weekend in what I have to say was, for the most part, a soporific
You
race.
like that word? That's a great
It's a
word. I
big
thought
word.
exactly the same thing when I was sitting
Well,
there
it was.
nodding off and up and up and up and wish something would happen in this race.
Yeah, and you got your wish.
Oh,
But you
yes.
could have condensed the race. As far as Pirelli goes, they've got a bit of an issue, obviously, to investigate why. They said, it could be punctures. Well, they were all front lefts, and the cars go on the same part of the track. Doesn't matter if you're really fast or really slow. So the front left went. It could not have been a puncture on the track, in my opinion, because whatever caused the puncture for the first car would have gone. Plus, all 3 cars said they had vibrations at the front. So, and then Red Bull brought Max Verstappen in, who could have won the race. Yeah, we could have won the race if we didn't do that. Well, that's rubbish. They brought him in for a very good reason. It could have happened to him. He didn't know, or they didn't know, that Lewis Hamilton was going to have a puncture. So they brought him in for absolutely the right reasons. And, the fact Hamilton had a puncture after that was one of those things.
Interesting, though, because of what you're referencing before around each race being a standalone race. Let's not consider the championship too much because we don't know what the future holds. Based on that reality itself, maybe they would have been best to actually try and throw it all out for all money and actually try and get the race win because we don't know what the future is. So if they've banked points, they've made a safe decision to get that second place. When you look at the uncertainty around COVID, maybe they should have risked everything just to get that race win. I'm just saying, just to counter what you're saying
But
before.
I tell you what, back there is hindsight. Hindsight is really, really, really good. I'm very good at hindsight.
Yeah.
I'm a bloody expert in hindsight.
You roll the
you
dice,
gotta-
though. You roll the dice. It's called race strategy. You make the call
and
and you
it's
live and die
like
by it.
that. It's that quick. So, yeah.
You make a call, you make a call. And Verstappen obviously wasn't concerned about it. He said, we did the right thing. That's all there is
Talking
to it.
about strange vibrations, what's all
Beach
this
Boys.
loose stuff floating around in a Ferrari cockpit and Mr. Vettel?
Yeah, I don't know. Could have only been his pedals, I think. So they went in there enough times and they ended up changing the pedals. Maybe there was a loose pedal in there somehow. I got no idea. But he was up
Did he have
against the wall all
some
weekend.
spare change in the back of his fire suit that just worked its way loose?
Well, he's-
Contract.
He's
Bit of
getting,
car
enough,
keys.
he's getting enough spare change from Ferrari. I'd hate to think what he's earned over the last few years there. But anyway, he's just up against it, isn't he? All the time, it seems. I don't think he can pull a trick. And especially when you see Leclerc with the same car, in inverted commas, which we are presuming is because it's quite difficult not to, although Ferrari are quite famous for having different cars, different drivers, and Leclerc coming third in the end, albeit fortunate. And then you look at Vettel coming, 10th, but he wasn't really a 10th place, was he? So I think it's, it's bizarre what's happening to him. Whether it's a loss of faith, a loss of complete loss of mojo because of all that's going on, and it quite likely could be, yeah.
I've just got two other quick things for you. What do we take of Lando Norris in the video that went viral about him working on his car with his crew? I thought that was fantastic, actually. Yeah. And then the second part is Alex Albon a man under pressure right now?
well, there can only be yes, but I think he's putting himself under pressure. I don't think the pressure's coming from the team, but you never know what Dr. Helmut Marko is saying, whispering behind the
It's
awnings.
very Red Bull.
It'd be rather direct, I would say.
I think he's getting plenty of support from the team. I don't think they can do any better at the moment than Albon. I don't think they should. He's a quick driver. He's not very, very far off Max Verstappen when he actually gets going. It must shake you to the core when you have a crash before the race happens in practice, that sort of thing. It must shake you to the core, as it did with Lewis Hamilton, to be honest, when he went off in qualifying. That took all his powers of concentration and having the best car on the track to get back going again.
Kind of instant reality check, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And you can't take anything away from Lewis Hamilton again. I mean, I'm ignoring all the Black Lives Matter, all that sort of stuff around it. As a driver, geez, he's good. Simple as that.
Well,
and
the
that's an
start
understatement.
was illustrated just by the gap straight away at the start of the race. Gone.
Amazing,
A couple of corners, he's off up into the distance.
Yeah. And it's strange, going to McLaren, incidentally, Carlos Sainz needed one lap less in the race because then he wouldn't have the puncture. And Norris would have been good for him to have one lap less. He wouldn't have got overtaken by Ricciardo, perhaps. So, that race was just the wrong time for McLaren, wrong timing, wrong number of laps.
Great helmet design by Lando, though.
Yeah.
By a 6-year-old that did the helmet design for
Six-year-old
him.
called Eva. Lando Norrie S, which is classic
Just
Charles. So
fantastic.
I'm around
It's
the room,
great.
I'll just put the S down there.
Sport needs that.
It's humanity, it's real, and I don't think there'd be anyone out there who wouldn't look at that who's known children and not gone, oh.
You warm to it.
You'd have to be a pretty cold kind of person not to. Hey, wow, how could you? He opens up his house for us every week. You're not cold, you're warm. Yes, you're warm.
So what's that done to the championship, Bob?
Well, championship, yeah. Well, Verstappen obviously came second, Leclerc third, Ricciardo, then Norris, and then Ocon, then Gasly. So we end up in the championship with Hamilton on 88. Once again, is he going to be beaten? Well, the bloke who's going to beat him is 58. It's Bottas, and he's not going to beat him, is he? Simple as that. Max Verstappen, who had a fairly lonely race once he was in that race, just asking or making sure his engineer on the pit wall was hydrating himself properly. That was a bit bizarre. He's on 52. Norris in fourth position, 36th, and Leclerc 33 in fifth. Albon 26 in sixth, and on we go. I can't see a Vettel in the top 10, which is a shame. But anyway, constructors.
What does Vettel do now?
Well, he's just got to do the next race. This is now race by race.
Is he the kind of guy, though, that goes, I had a great run, I've got a bucket full of championships in my back pocket?
I don't believe
he
so.
wouldn't want to walk away knowing that his last season was a car wreck, would he?
Well, I don't think he wants
needs to come back and go, listen, I'm better than this.
Yeah, he doesn't want to walk away, but the only way he can stay there is by displacing another good driver, effectively, which is Formula One. That's what happens.
Yeah.
What he should be doing is displacing drivers who clearly shouldn't be there, one of which is Grosjean, swerving all over the place trying to stop guys overtaking him. But why would you want to drive a Haas? Haas might don't even be there next year. So he's going to be replacing Sergio Perez, I think one of the best improved drivers out there. But anyway, Mercedes won 46 points in the lead, with Red Bull on 78, McLaren in third and 51, Ferrari on 43. I didn't really see that happening this time last year, that would be like that. But anyway, so it's a good thing. Racing Point at 42, Renault 32, etc., etc. So
Just in case you don't know,
happen?
ladies and gentlemen, Bob McMurray spent over 30 years ensconced in the McLaren shed, so he can sense the smiles. This is exactly why.
I've got to, haven't I?
Yeah,
I've
have
got
to.
to. It's one of those things.
I guess then we move on to where the Kiwis were, F2 and F3.
Yeah, it was good and the bad, really. Marcus Armstrong had a particularly, in Formula 2, a particularly lacklustre weekend. Would that be right? I mean, 16th in race one. He didn't qualify well, and clearly, but nor did Schwartzman, one of the guy who won the Toyota Racing Series here as well. So, yeah, that was a bit strange. In race two, Dan Ticktum won it. Dan Ticktum has had a colourful career.
It was quite the scrap, though, at the end of that race.
It was,
It took them trying to hold on to
Yeah.
that, and I really enjoyed that aspect of F2 and F3. It's a lot harder. It's a lot more. They're all there.
Yeah.
They're all getting going, and there's not a lot between them team-wise. So
No.
that's an exciting aspect of that formula.
Marcus had a better race in race 2, but of course he didn't, he only just managed to get a point in 10th position. I don't know, it was lackluster. The second race was good, but, well, not the sort of weekend he wanted. In the championship now, Schwartzman is 81. Eilert, who was also down here in TRS, was 73 points. Lundgaard, Armstrong's teammate, 69, but in third. But Marcus is 11th on 34 points. So, he's got a hell of a lot to make up now. But whatever happened at Silverstone, he's got to reverse it for next weekend because it's same deal, same time, same
Well, he has
place.
the opportunity. In saying that, so do all the other pedalers as well.
Yeah. Incidentally, Formula 2, do you notice much the difference between the 18-inch wheels and the old 13?
No.
You notice that?
No.
I think they look much better. I really do. Have you, Darcy, you noticed
No,
that?
I'm on all one
Well,
for
they-
aesthetics. I love the way motorsport looks, but it hasn't jumped out at
Formula
me.
2 cars are running on 18-inch wheels now instead of 13, which is where Formula 1 is going in I don't know how many years' time now. Well, it won't be next year, will it? Now. But 18-inch wheels are the way everything is going. And when they first started racing, I thought it was a bit like noticing the halo. But now you don't. They just look very large wheels on the cars.
I've said it before with F2 and F3. The thing that you do notice is how hard the racing is. Like it's demanding. It's almost wheel to wheel at times. It shows you the level of racing that happens at those categories to get you up to the top level.
Yeah.
You are learning how
The
to race.
racecraft is a lot
Big
more
time.
pronounced, is it not, at
I
that
think,
level?
Yeah, in both categories, there's an awful lot of rich kids come in there. An awful lot of rich kids come in because they can. Formula 3 and then Formula 2 sieves out most of the ones that don't have talent. I don't care how much money you've got, like Lance Stroll. If you've got the talent, you should be there.
Yep.
Okay, it's unfortunate for those who don't have enough money to get in to show their talent, of which there are many, and in New Zealand we're well used to that, kids not being able to get there.
Hamilton, absolutely no money whatsoever, but all the talent in the world. Look
Well,
where that's got him. Now he's
He was
got
picked
plenty
up,
of money.
Yeah, he was picked up in karting from Ron Dennis, and that kept on going all the way through. But
He
it
showed
does
that
sort of-
talent from that
He did.
karting era. He stood out. He screamed and waved flags. Look at me, I'm worth investing in.
Yeah.
So.
We're seeing genuine talent, though, moving on to F3 with Liam, aren't we?
Yeah, Liam, he's struggled. I mean, look, he's had a huge rocket behind his car in Hungary when it all caught fire and tried to do, and then in the next race he didn't score any points because the engine gave up again. So he's been put back behind the 8 ball quite a lot. But his overtaking manoeuvre on Oscar Piastri, it wasn't Oscar Piastri, the other guy I can't remember, Sargent. Yeah, it was Sargent. At the beginning of the race,
First lap.
was just first lap
On the
just
outside.
unbelievable.
Wow.
It was really good. And then I've got to say, the old thing about safety cars come and they come in and all that sort of thing. Oscar Piastri caught him up once he got past Sargent and all, caught him up really quickly. And I think he probably would have given Liam a harder time had the safety car not come out. Whether he would have got in front, I don't know, because Liam held him off a lot.
He drives a pretty
really
wide
did
vehicle.
Yeah.
I think you could say that Liam, couldn't you? Historically, looking back through his Toyota Racing Series time and the way he keeps
knows
people
how to
behind
defend,
him. He does.
and overtake. So good on him for doing that, and he did well by winning that the feature race from Piastri and Sargent and Jake Hughes in race 2. He obviously started reverse grid right down the back, and he came up to 7th, which is pretty good around there. It's a shorter one. So in that championship now, Piastri from Australia is 94 points. Logan Sargent 77, Beckman 64.5, Frederick Vesti 55.5, Liam Lawson 54. So he's climbed up to 5th position with 10 races to go, 5 feature races, 5 sprint races over the next few weeks, and of course they're out again next weekend. As is Jackson Evans in Porsche, who came 3rd in his race, but just could not get past the guy in 2nd, who was a bit of a rookie, and allowed the front guy to get about 10 streets ahead.
You listen to the Racing World podcast with David Turner, Bob McMurray, myself, Darcy Waldegrave. What we normally do is send David out with a tin can and a bit of string to find out what information he can get for us, what interviews he can bag. You can find out the result of that expedition with said can and string when Racing World returns. The Perspective Group is a leading media production company based in Auckland, New Zealand. Established in 2009 by former TVNZ producer David Turner, Perspective Group offers you a vast arrangement of media options to fit any size or budget. It covers truly global services supported by some of New Zealand's leading media talents. For more information, contact Perspective Group Limited at perspectivegroupltd@gmail.com and check out the website perspectivegroupltd.com, where you'll find even more information on creating your media solutions.
You have a dream. You have all the drive in the world. You have talent to burn. Now all you need is a chance. Toyota are committed to developing and nurturing New Zealand's next generation of world-class racing drivers, because if you can dream it, we can do it.
This is the Racing World podcast with Darcy, Bob and David. David, of course, sent out on his way to watch D1 NZ Grand Final. Whether you love it or whether you hate it, and I know there's a lot of people in motorsport that really struggle with the concept of drifting, and I was one of them to a degree. I know you've been as well. There's one thing that you cannot doubt. The people love it. The crowds are out there, and then that is huge for that, when you're introducing new people into the wonderful wide world of motorsport, albeit in a category that some of us more longer in the tooth gentlemen struggle with it as well. But David, you've been out there, and the crowds are frantic. I remember the Toyota Racing Series last year, and seeing the size of the crowds that turned up to watch drifting. I'm not entirely sure if they needed that rubber all over the track for the regular series, but it was eyes. There's eyeballs on the racing. I think that's really important. Yeah,
and I think credit for a lot of that goes to Brendan White and his team at D1NZ. You know, Brendan puts everything on the line. He's an incredibly passionate guy when it comes to the promotion of the Drift Series, and great backers with Valvoline, and you're seeing that. And yeah, to see 5,000 or 6,000 people in the grandstands at Pukekohe and a big corporate presence as well was a positive thing. We also had a championship that went to the wire, and that was great, you know. And Liam Burke came out as the pro champion in the end from Taylor James, and it made for a great weekend. So I caught up with my now famous tin can and piece of string with
you'll have that branded shortly, won't you?
With Steve Daniel and Kenny, the two commentators.
iPhone.
yeah, iPhone Pro, thanks. And just talk to them about how the season had gone as well. So here's what Kenny had to say.
She was a bit wild, rough and tumble. It's been a long one. Obviously, we had the COVID-19 thing, but yeah, a really cool mix of tracks. And test of skill. We had a new gauntlet event that just was probably one of the slowest. It's funny when we talk about it because the drivers laugh about it. Like, oh, that was slow. And then we throw them into the Pookie final and they're doing 200 click at one of the world's fastest circuits. So for drifting anyway. So, I mean, what do you reckon, Steve?
We went to so many different places, as you alluded to, and we get to go to places like Bay Park, as you mentioned, ASB, all the way down to Te Tonga. That was great as well. And just to see the mix of some of these young guys coming up through the ranks. We had the Taylor James and Liam Burke, who on Saturday managed to take out the Drift King honours in his second season in pro. I mean, what it does is it shows people that are just new to drifting that you can actually come and mix it with the big boys like the Fanga Dans and the Darren Kellys and the Cole Armstrongs after only a couple of seasons. And hey, I don't mean to be rude, they haven't got the best gear in the world. You know, they're not sitting there rocking $300,000 supercar drift machines. They're still expensive, $100,000 machines, and they're competing well. And we saw it on Saturday night with Liam Burke going through and taking the win.
But that's a healthy thing for the sport, isn't it? And the fact that you've got new growth in it, you know, like so many sporting codes, whether it be motorsport, D1 NZ, or, you know, football, rugby, whatever. If there's no growth in the sport, you know, effectively stalls. But you guys are looking very healthy with people that are interested in competing in it.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see the benefit of. We restructured the pro sport category 2 or 3 years ago now. I was just thinking back to it. I think the first round as the rebrand as pro sport was when we went to Dunedin's Forsyth Bar Stadium. We had 40 cars. I mean, it was incredible. Like a full field, and we know how hard it is to get full grids in New Zealand as well. There's so much. You know, it's hard. Well, one, it's expensive, but two, there's a lot of effort from not just the pit crews, the drivers, the wider community to make it happen, because it's a whole nother class. But to see that be restructured and grow, and see these guys come out of the shed with these cars. These cars are built in the shed. This is true blue Kiwi motorsport, and it's been one thing that I've always known, loved about D1NZ is that it's an egalitarian pit lane. There's people from all walks of life that it's just such a great mix of people. It's such a great community.
Steve, what's your thoughts on the state of the sport, shall we say?
Well, one thing we see with drifting is it continues to grow and evolve, and it started about 17 years ago here in New Zealand, and just little things like the brainchild of Brendan White, and when he thinks, okay, we're going through COVID, let's go inside ASB, we can't have a crowd. We got a crowd because we expected to be in lockdown a little bit longer, but to be able to go up and turn dreams into reality. The sport seems to me to be healthy. We've gone from posting things as on YouTube and social media, and of course Facebook coming on. Then we went to let's go live on Facebook with what we're doing. Now let's go on a network show like Sky Sport, and that's huge for us with drifting, and it's been something that's really, really positive this season. Because one thing about being on a network is that a lot of the corporate partners, etc., they look at it and go, network equals money, and of course that's what it takes a lot of to run these cars. So equals money, we get sponsorships on board, whether that be individual sponsors for the drivers or series sponsors for ourselves. I think that we're growing into a place that we can kind of look at a positive future.
It's a level of profile that comes with that, isn't it? And I guess it's also respect, and from my point of view, not only as a trustee for the Elite Academy, which me and Kenny have talked about, but equally as you guys both sort of gave me a hard time back at Teretonga in January about, you'll get the hang of this drifting stuff. Here we are, it's August, and I'm here, and I'm loving it, and I've become part of it. And as far as Kenny's concerned, I have my flat peak cap as well.
we sort of look at it. I mean, I looked at when we were down in Teretonga, and I'm like, oh, look, there's DT, David Turner, and it was like great, exciting to have you there. We had you come along at ASB Showgrounds, and then it's like, here he goes. So at last Saturday at Pukekohe Park Raceway for the grand final. The thing I want to see now is I'd love to see the likes of, say, we'll put Bob McMurray maybe in a car, and we'll get Darcy Watergrave to come along, and we'll strap them into maybe Fanga Dan's car, or Liam Burke's now, because he is the Drift King.
Yeah, well, those boys wind me up about going on the road with my tin can and string, as it's been referred to. So, yeah, maybe we'll take up that challenge. Just looking at, though, again, obviously there's some months off now until the next season kicks on, even though the whole year is sort of mucked up due to COVID. I think that the impression I got from everyone here today is they regroup and they're kind of good to go again. They're keen to get back into it and just keep on going. Very positive.
Yeah, I think running a grand final this late in the year, we haven't done that before, and it will be interesting. The off-season will be interesting. The attrition rate this season, more so particularly for the pro class, might be something to think about. There will be rules and regs that will be reviewed, I think. I think we need to have we do every year, but we need to have a drivers' AGM and just speak to all the teams and drivers, the sponsors, the family. This is a family sport too. A lot of families build these cars. So it's going to be interesting to see the direction of where the two classes want to head. There has been whispers that maybe we change the tyre rules. Maybe. It may not. Who knows? But the off-season, the short turnaround in the off-season, I think most people will be happy with it. They'll be keen to just get back in the seat and just get back into it. They love it. And the thing is, we only get to do it 5 times a year. So, they're going to be keen to just get back out there and get on the horse again.
Well, gentlemen, all I can say is from a non-converted to converted now, it's a very professional show right from when you walk in. A lot of that credit goes to Brendan, as we've said before. But the team uniforms from all the D1NZ crew to the presentation of the cars, the drivers themselves, I'm finding, are speaking better on television and everything. So I think, really giving you the final words, but I think D1 can hold its head very high where it sits in the stature of motorsport New Zealand.
I just want to mention Brendan White. What an achievement he's done this year. It's been spectacular to be a part of for myself. The only thing I have to say probably to finish the show is, Darcy Watergrave, if you do come in a car, I'll play Primal Scream Loaded for you as your intro song to get into that car like you did in Radio Sport for so many years.
There's that old saying, there's no secrets in motorsport, but I'll just throw this out there that there's maybe a few rally drivers might be keen to maybe have a bit of a play and sometime in the future. So that might be interesting.
Well, there you go. You heard it on Racing World. So to anyone from the rally fraternity that's listening to it, we expect you to turn up at the first round of the Valvoline D1 NZ Series 2021, and we'll be waiting for you. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the Racing World podcast, and well, that was David with his tin can, and I don't know about you, Bob, but I'll accept it. I would love to be thrown around in one of those, and having the loaded primal scream. This is an in-joke, ladies and gentlemen, from way back in the day. One of my earlier radio programs, Loaded was the intro tune for about 3 years. I think it was the drive program I did maybe 8 or 9 years ago now. It was quite a long time ago, so that takes back. I actually got married. My first marriage was to that song.
Well, see,
I don't know what my third marriage is going to be, and I'd probably rather not even look down that line.
You obviously had a listener in Steve Daniel way back down there in Tauranga, so he's onto it. That man.
Thank you very much for that. No, I'd love to be thrown around. There's nothing more exciting than sitting in a seat where someone else does their business and you have zero control, but you just enjoy the ride. I'll probably spend most of my time looking at his feet, which is what I tend to do when I'm getting hot laps. What are you doing down there?
I did watch the cars going into turn 1 at Pukekohe, and we had a radar gun where I was, and the average speeds was sort of 197 to 204 kilometres an hour entry speed in there. It's pretty impressive. So I think I'll probably let you two guys go have the ride and I'll watch.
I'll certainly go in. I need my mind changing about it. Do not... I do not underestimate the engineering that goes into those cars. I really don't. I look at it from an engineering point of view, and they are magnificent. I take my hat off to them every single time. They're incredible. What they actually do with them, okay. But I'll go in a seat if they can convince me to watch it even more.
They're gunning
I'll
for
be
you.
there. Yeah.
So,
Well,
there
do
we
you
go.
think it'll be any different to us driving the two vans, utes, whatever it was, around Pukekohe when we drove that? What were they called? The sing-song. Sanyongs. That's
Sanyong,
right. When we drove those, it must be different to that.
I don't know if
mustn't
what we did was called driving it.
No, I was drifting. I was drifting quite a lot, mainly on the grass.
Well, at the end of the day, it was a great championship. I saw round 1, saw round 5, obviously the indoor event at ASB. Brendan did an outstanding job in keeping it going. The team harmony and the promotional harmony behind it, phenomenal. They do take a big tick. Great that a championship went to the wire, and it was a great display. So, it's now only a matter of months till we do it all again, and there's still plenty of motorsport happening out there.
Looking back over the weekend, Bob, a couple of the Kiwis involved. You touched on Jackson Evans at Silverstone. What else do we have?
Yeah, well, Earl Bamber was in the IMSA WeatherTech at Road America. Unfortunately, he got in. They were leading. He got in the car, and he was out there on slick tyres, worn slick tyres, and there was a huge amount of rain came down. He couldn't get into the pits to change, did another lap, and unfortunately crashed out. So that wasn't a very good thing. Talking about Earl Bamber again, he is scheduled to run a NASCAR Infinity cast, Xfinity Pro, whatever they call the thing, a NASCAR with Richard Childress Racing. Now, for those of us who were in Toyota Racing Series years ago, you remember when Earl Bamber first came into it, he used to talk about Richard Childress Racing, and Richard Childress was one of the guys that used to go shooting on the farm, at his father's farm, deer shootings. He runs what do they call it, prize stag hunts or whatever it is. And Richard Childress used to come down here, and Earl always had this sort of inkling that he might want to go to America and drive that, even when he was a junior in Toyota Racing Series. So hopefully it comes to fruition. He's not going in with a dumb team. Richard Childress Racing is one of the better teams. So the Xfinity Series, we'll see how he goes. There's a lot of good old boys in there, but they're not necessarily good old boys anymore. They're just kids that get up for racing. We had NASCAR, of course, at the weekend. Brad Keselowski won from Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. That's going to continue. As I don't know where they are next. They're all over the place.
Keselowski's just done a new contract with Penske too for
Keselowski,
the future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, and he's having a dig at people coming in as well, saying these days there's a lot of rich kids coming in there. Well, it's the same all over. We had Superbikes at the weekend, incidentally. Superbikes, Scott Redding of Britain, he did a pretty good job displacing Jonathan Ray. And in race 1, they call him T. That's all there is to it. He's a Turkish driver, and I listen to his name every time. Is Razgatlıoglu to whatever. I can't remember. I'm ashamed that I can't say it properly. Chaz Davis in 4th. Race 2, Scott Redding again. So the championship, understandably. Scott Redding is leading, 98 from Jonathan Ray, who is the Mr. Motorcycle from all that time. MotoGP, Marc Marquez is having more surgery on his right arm. So that ain't going to be very good because he's almost certainly going to miss the Czech Grand Prix, I would imagine. But you never know with him. He could come back with no arms at all and still run. We had BTCC at Donington as well. I mentioned that only because Dick Bennett's team won a couple of races, and I'm going to pay more attention to the BTCC, British Touring Car Racing, because Dick's in it. I was racing with Dick in 1970, and he's just got such a fantastic team, and he's a Kiwi driving over there. His driver, Colin Turkington, currently leads that championship. What have we got? I'm just on to next weekend, unless anybody's got anything else.
Just wrapping up the Innsmouth thing a little bit, Penske informed his drivers that Penske are splitting with Acura, who they've been running in the GTP class, and informed his drivers that they are free to look at other options for 2021 and beyond. So that's Elio and Montoya and then the others. So that'll be
Elio actually
interesting to
won
see
the
how
race.
that
I
play
should have
out.
said that. Yeah.
So that's a change in the landscape a little there. And then another big one that came out of the Midwest in Indiana, and it's a place that you've been to with me, John Force, well known in drag racing. They've said that they will not participate in any more events in 2020 due to not being able to fulfill sponsor obligations and having to lay staff off or furlough them during the COVID period. So they made a decision which, from a business point of view, would be a pretty hard decision to make, but they won't be back in top fuel drag raching until 2021.
Right, last but not least, should we look forward to what happens next weekend
Once again, there's quite a lot. Formula 1, 2, 3, Silverstone, as we've talked about. Mitch Evans and Simon Evans are in Formula E in Berlin, Simon being in the I-Pace trophy, and they've got a race on the 5th, the 6th, the 8th, the 9th, and the 12th, all at Tempelhof Airport, and they're changing the circuit around the airport. So Simon's up there as well to drive in the Jaguar I-Pace. Mitch, incidentally, second in the championship. He's got a really, he's pretty good chance of doing well in that championship. He's getting better. We got Supercar Sprint, Hidden Valley. They've changed the tyre regulations now for qualifying. Everybody is on the hard tyre rather than fiddling about with tyres, and then they revert to the soft and hard and all that sort of stuff.
So enjoy about that series that they can, at the drop of a hat, make the pertinent decision, the right decision.
Well, they're worthy decisions, aren't they?
Yeah, it's right, I think. And a lot of that is because of Adrian Burgess, I think, going in there and trying to move things along. We used to have him on our radio show. We'll talk to him again about things, I think.
Love to have him back on again.
There's 3 races of 38 laps there. We've got NASCAR at Michigan. We've got the BTCC at Brands Hatch. We've got MotoGP at Brno. We've got the World Superbikes at Algarve, Portimao, Portugal. In domestic stuff, we've got the Caitlin's Coast Rally, Eastern Southern Car Club. This is on August the 8th. Then on August 9th, the Blowkart Track Autocross. That sounds good, doesn't it? Bay of Plenty, Motorsport Bay of Plenty. The Canterbury Car Club Dual Circuit Sprint, Mike Pirro Motorsport Park on the 9th. The Kypro Hills Bent Sprint, just up here, North Auckland, Hibiscus Coast Motorsport Club. The Surgery Sprints, 2020, Round 3, Dual Sprints at Manfield, MG Classic Racing Register, and the West End Higher Stratford Street Sprint, Taranaki, South Taranaki Car Club. So, yeah, if you want to get out there, it looks like it might be a nice weekend. Get out there and do it.
Homegrown motorsport, isn't it? That's what it's all about.
We've got a lot of it. And any of those people that want to actually give us a call and say, hey, this is what we're doing next week, come give us a call. Let us know, please, because we're really, really happy to put as much domestic motorsport on as we possibly can. We've got so many young drivers in this country that need so much support, and we're happy to give them to them.
I'm amazed even this morning, I picked up our local newspaper thing that comes in the letterbox that you go, oh, God, more junk mail in the letterbox. 2 really significant things that I didn't know about the region that I live in, which is Matakana, Greater Rodney area. The fact that we have NZ number 3 in Super Saloon living in our region, and there was a big spread on him. And then a midget driver that I actually, after all the years at the Springs, I have to admit I hadn't really heard of his name that much, and he's racing USAC in the States right now. So, the local everything is fantastic, and that's part of what this podcast is about. It's about supporting local.
Yeah.
We'd love for you to reach out as well, of course, on those social channels as Bob tries to destroy his seat.
And the set.
I can think that maybe it's a $5 bolt that's faulty there, and you're going to lose the race for that one as well.
Next weekend, actually, we might have Morris. We are having Morris Hamilton, the multiple author of so many books, and the latest book, Nicky, on maybe he can explain more about the $5 bolts.
We'd like to think so. On behalf of David Turner, of Bob McMurray, this is Darcy Waldegrave, who's about to engage in his own form of motorsport. It's the weekly 50k race from Waitoki back to Glen Eden, all within the speed limit, of course. Thanking you very much for listening to our podcast. This has been Racing World. Race Control Magazine is your IndyCar fan mag and so much more. Publishing monthly online on issuu.com, you will find Race Control Magazine there for you to download and enjoy everything IndyCar and so much more. Behind-the-scenes features, race reports and the entire Road to Indy Series are just part of what you will find, along with stunning images captured from the series' leading photographers. Grab your copy today at issw.com to complete your motorsport read.
You have a dream. You have all the drive in the world. You have talent to burn. Now all you need is a chance. Toyota are committed to developing and nurturing New Zealand's next generation of world-class racing drivers, because if you can dream it, we can do it.
Racing World is presented by Race Control Magazine.